Hello, everyone. This is James Tyberonn with Earthkeeper, and I'd like to thank you all for joining us today. We have a wonderful interview scheduled with Giorgio Tsoukalos, and Giorgio will be joining us. And in the meantime, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the event that we are hosting in Denver, Colorado in November. This is absolutely a stellar event with a brilliant lineup of speakers, including today's guest, Giorgio Tsoukalos, Graham Hancock, Dr. Robert Schoch, John Van Auken, the Executive Director of the Edgar Cayce Foundation, Scott Walter, who is the host of America Unearthed, which is also on the History Channel, and William Henry. William Henry is a scholar, a brilliant speaker, a wonderful person, very, very knowledgeable, prolific author who has appeared on numerous television shows. We also have James Van Auken, who is Vice President of the Edgar Cayce Atlantic University. And James is the son of John Van Auken, who I consider one of my mentors. So this will be his first Earthkeeper event, and I'm really looking forward to meeting James. We also have Dr. John Ryan, who is a medical doctor from the Toronto, Canada area, and he will be speaking on his book entitled The Missing Pill. John is a wonderful, wonderful person. We also have Michelle Nocerino, who is the caretaker and guardian of the crystal skull Shana Ra. Her father, of course, is Nick Nocerino, who is considered the patriarch of the crystal skull movement that began in the 1970s. And so Michelle is a lovely person, and Shana Ra is an extraordinary crystal skull, one of two skulls we believe to be truly part of the ancient 13 crystal skulls. We also have Joanne Parks, the guardian of Max, another ancient crystal skull vetted as ancient by the scientists at the British Museum. We also have Dr. Joe McNamara. He is an Irish medical doctor who is now practicing alternative holistic treatments, and he will be one of our speakers in Denver. So the event in Denver is the weekend before Thanksgiving, November 18th through 21st. We still have tickets available. You can find the tickets online at our website, www.earthkeeper.com, or you can call us at the phone numbers listed on our website, 936-522-8804 or 936-447-9119. And this will be a stellar event. We have endorsed healers. We have a wonderful staff that come to all of our events. And we expect this event to sell out. We still have tickets available. We still have space available in our Venue Hotel in Southeast Denver. It's a beautiful hotel. And so we encourage all of you to join us in Denver. It is a surprisingly different environment than the mountains. Although the mountains of Colorado are very close by, about an hour's drive, Denver is actually in a different environmental setting, a different geology of high plains. And so there's very, very little rain that actually appears, that actually occurs in Denver. Denver gets less than 15 inches of rain per year, and it's a much warmer climate. So the average temperature in the daytime, the average high temperature in November is 62 degrees Fahrenheit. So the cold doesn't really hit until late December or in January. So, Giorgio, are you there online? Giorgio, are you there? So Giorgio hasn't called in yet. We're waiting for his call in just a few minutes. We're actually about 4 or 5 minutes early. He's going to call in around 6 o'clock, 4 o'clock Pacific time. But let me tell you a little bit about our guest today. Giorgio Tsoukalos is an author, researcher, and publisher. He is the publisher of Legendary Times magazine and website. He was born in Switzerland of Greek-American heritage, and he speaks 5 languages. He is a graduate of Ithaca College in New York State and is the host and producer of the brilliant Ancient Alien TV series aired on the History Channel. Giorgio will be a featured speaker at the upcoming Earthkeeper Stargate event in Denver, Colorado, November 18th through 21st, 2016, along with Graham Hancock, Dr. Robert Schoch, John Van Auken, William Henry, Scott Walter, James Van Auken, Dr. John Ryan, and Dr. Joseph McNamara, along with special guest Max and Shauna Ra. So please join us for that event. We do still have tickets available, and I assure you, this will be one of the most amazing gatherings that is occurring this year. We have a nurturing spiritual environment, and the goal of Earthkeeper is to combine the sacred with the scientific, and that's a very, very important goal, a very important movement, is to bring science into the new age of metaphysics. And Giorgio plays a tremendous role. Ancient Aliens, the television series, is brilliantly researched with academics, and the information that is provided on that show is absolutely cutting edge and so well done. So let me check one more time. Giorgio, are you online with us?
Yes, I am.
Oh, thank you so very much, Giorgio. I truly appreciate your joining us today. I know you have a very, very busy schedule.
Yes, I just stepped out of another meeting, but, let's make this happen and rock and roll.
Absolutely. Well, we have about 1,200 guests listening in right now, so we deeply appreciate. I was just telling our listeners how important Ancient Aliens is for introducing people to the concepts that we are not alone in the universe. And I sincerely want to applaud you for the efforts that you have made in producing, hosting, and researching this extraordinary program. Giorgio, do you have a new season coming up soon of Ancient Aliens?
Well, we just wrapped filming and producing season 11, and there's still a few episodes in the can that have not been aired yet. And so thank you very much for your words, and I'm very happy that this many listeners are live with us right now. Hello, everyone. And I have to say, right away that the only reason why we're still on the air is because of the fans. And so I would like to thank all of you to tune in and making the show the success it has become, because if anyone remembers, it only started out as a one offshoot 2-hour documentary, and here we are in season 11 or season 9, depending on how you look at it. But, the bottom line is we have over 115 episodes now. And, as Mr. Kevin Burns of Prometheus Entertainment always said, this was the little engine that could. And I also have to give credit to Prometheus Entertainment for their amazing research team that is searching, worldwide for new and untold mysteries. And it's all very exciting. So, I mean, it's really I can't put it in words to see that a show like this, that 20 years ago would have not been possible, is so popular today.
Well, thank you so much for that. And I have to comment that it is not simply a show that brings forth information. The research that you and your team do and your producers do at Ancient Aliens is extraordinary. The academics that you bring in, the manner in which the show is narrated and unfolded in each episode, is spellbinding. Every one of the programs that I watch, I am totally impressed at the quality of the information that you bring forth and the way that you document it with academics. And so I again congratulate you for that extraordinary program. And it is no surprise that it is in its 11th season. It is absolutely one of the finest and most informative programs and most important programs available today. And so I think that is why it is so well watched.
Well, thank you very much. And, you know, I always say that if people are not interested watching Ancient Aliens because of their leanings, then basically I say to them, look, just watch the show, because the show asks a lot of questions, and it's beautifully shot. So even if in the end, if you don't agree with it, at least you watched a beautifully put together show, because, you know, we send teams around worldwide to most of the locations live. So we actually, you know, obviously we use stock footage, but a lot of the stuff is original footage that we go out there, or Prometheus goes out there and, you know, films on location. So that, to me, also adds tremendous value. And overall, it's just a gorgeous show, just from a visual perspective.
I couldn't agree more, and you're talking to a totally supportive audience. We are now over 2,000 attendees.
Oh, and, wow.
That is a compliment to you. And, Giorgio, we were speaking earlier about people bursting out of the paradigm, expanding beyond what may have once been orthodox restrictions on the origins of humanity. And that is why I believe this is so important. And you and I met 2 years ago at the Ancient Mysteries Conference in Virginia Beach, Virginia, at the Edgar Cayce Foundation, Edgar Cayce ARE headquarters. Mm-hmm. And I know that Edgar Cayce, the work of Edgar Cayce, played a role in your life. You've mentioned that previously. And I wanted to mention again, I referred to an article that John Van Auken wrote just a few months ago about Edgar Cayce and extraterrestrials. And so many of our listeners are Edgar Cayce fans. And so I would like to, with your agreement, read an actual reading from the Edgar Cayce
sure.
readings, and I have the reference number. Let me pull this up very quickly. And it is from an article written by John Van Auken. And here is the quote from John, and then I'll quote the actual readings.
Okay.
And this is from John. John Van Auken says, amazingly, we have an Edgar Cayce reading that supports the landing of visitors from other planets, extraterrestrials. Quote, and this is reading 1616. The entity was among the priestesses of the Mayan experience. It was just before those that were visiting from other worlds or other planets. And that's reading 1616. This reading is 281-16 Edgar Cayce. Man may in time become united with the people of the universe. Man may become the rulers of any various spheres throughout which the soul passes in its experiences, and so become united with the other peoples of the universe.
Yeah.
Unquote. That is amazing, and not too many people are aware of the depth that Cayce went into to speak about other peoples, ancient aliens coming in during the times of Egypt, during the Mayan Yucatan times, and in Atlantis. And this is another quote from John Van Auken, who will be a speaker along with Giorgio Tsoukalos at our Denver event. And this is John, quote, "It's possible that these, quote, people of the universe that Edgar Cayce speaks of are more fourth-dimensional than three-dimensional, more mind than matter, although many of them are physical, making it difficult for them to maintain a presence in our reality, also difficult to communicate with us. Perhaps they only appear or take form for a brief period of time in dense physical matter. Perhaps the form they take is not well structured in atoms of matter, of physical matter, more of a thought form. This may explain why so many UFOs seemingly break the physical laws of matter, such as making right turns at Mach 10, a feat that would tear any truly material object into pieces. It would also explain why unmanned radar never truly sees UFOs, only manned radar in occasionally conditions. UFOs may be more in consciousness than in matter. As humanity's consciousness expands, we are sure to find out what is the real truth, and it is my belief that they exist also in physical matter." One more quote from Cayce. In 1925, Cayce was asked directly whether or not any planet in our solar system other than the Earth was inhabited by human beings or life, biological life of any kind. Edgar Cayce answered in trance, "No, only upon the Earth at the present time do we find man as flesh and blood, but the universe is teeming with life." So, thank you for allowing me to read those in. And so I would like to ask you, Giorgio, your feelings on the nature of aliens and extraterrestrials. Clearly, Edgar Cayce confirms that they exist. And do you think that they exist in both physical and non-physical realities?
At this point of everything that I've encountered or researched, I would not discount anything anymore because, even though personally I am more of the opinion that extraterrestrials are flesh and blood beings like you and me, what I find fascinating in these quotes that you just read is that they refer to these other beings as people of the universe.
Yes.
So, a lot of people out there ask me, what do I think the extraterrestrials look like? And, to me that question is interesting because, a lot of folks out there have this notion that ETs may look like something straight out of an Alien movie or Independence Day and stuff like that. And mind you, that may be possible, but, that's Hollywood entertainment. And while I love those kinds of depictions of aliens because it's, as I said, it's quite entertaining, I think that the biggest unspoken secret, and it's not a secret at all in my opinion, is that when and if they land and show themselves publicly for the first time, then, when the hatch opens and they walk out, it'll be, in my opinion, as if we're looking at ourselves in the mirror. Because according to the ancient astronaut theory, we are their offspring. They changed our genetic makeup with a target mutation of our genes thousands, if not tens, if not hundreds of thousands of years ago. And essentially, there has been a hybrid program going on planet Earth for a very, very long time. And it's not necessarily a program. It's just that they saw that a species of humanoids has potential for a future. And so they basically, gave us intelligence by changing a couple of our genes. And so I think that, throughout the universe, there are humanoid beings that are, vastly advanced and travel throughout the universe or throughout the galaxies with technologies that we can't even dream of. And unfortunately, there seems to be a part of science today that suggests that just because we haven't figured out how to travel from between the stars, that this means someone else, for example, much older civilization or much older civilizations with an S, that they too haven't figured it out. And that, to me, unfortunately, is the height of human arrogance, because, if a civilization is only 500 years older than us, or even 1,000, imagine what technologies they would have if they're 10,000 years ahead of us. And, so I think we should be open-minded regardless, because what if in those 10,000 years the transition happens from being a physical being like you and me, and then we're basically over time going back to our force field, basically just becoming beings of light. And so we are somehow entering another dimension in the future. So, but all this is something that has occurred or is playing out throughout the entire universe, in my opinion, and we should just keep an open mind about these ideas and not restrict ourselves to saying, well, only this theory is correct or that theory is correct. So, because I find it very odd that, especially in the field that you and I are in, that so many people are at odds. And I say, let's keep an open mind and listen to each other. So we in a weird way, start behaving like the mainstream scientists.
How beautifully stated, and you are remarkably articulate. I watch your programs and how perfect your diction is and how well thought out are your explanations, and that's another example of that. So thank you for that. And so I want to quote another reading from Cayce, or a paraphrased reading that was in John Van Auken's earlier article. And he mentioned that in 1938, Edgar Cayce was asked about the location of placing the Association for Research and Enlightenment in Virginia Beach. And his answer is very interesting. He specifically states that the ARE was positioned and placed in Virginia Beach because of the cosmic radiation that is available in that particular area. He says,
interesting. I've never heard that before.
Yeah, he says, it is easier for electricity to pass over iron than glass, see, and this is a quote. So then in the environmental forces in and about Virginia Beach and vicinity, there is that combination of energies necessary for the expansion toward many people in many climes, for those in close proximity and reaching out to the various spheres of activity. So it's interesting. He says that those vibrations of the universal forces, as manifested through the physical human body, are more able to relate to the transmissions and the elements of universal and cosmic forces in this particular areas, and there are others. And so the reason I mention that is because it sounds like he's talking about power nodes, about what we refer to as stargates, about energies on the planet in certain locations, whether it be for geometric angles of stars or planets, or, and I'm speaking as a geologist, certain mineralogical contents in areas, whether it be quartz or other areas. But it appears like he's speaking about there being certain points on the Earth in which there are stargates, and that would lend credence to the, reports that we have more UFO sightings in places like Sedona, Arizona, Mount Shasta, et cetera, et cetera. Can you comment on that?
Sure. I mean, all these ideas, in my opinion, are plausible, and just because we haven't figured out how to access these node points yet doesn't mean that they do not exist. And this is why I think Ancient Aliens is such a wonderful show, because we explore these things with an open perspective, because I think, for example, that we're all light beings inside a bodysuit right now, and that in a weird way, being in this bodysuit right now is only temporary, while our souls are there for eternity. And eternity in a good way. Well, I mean, this is something very positive. And so we should really cherish the experience that we have here on planet Earth, because while I do believe in reincarnation, I have no idea what the next reincarnation will be or where, so therefore, we really should, be a bit more grateful to experience this amazing journey on planet Earth. And I understand that a lot of people have financial problems, or they're unhappy in their jobs. And, I understand these problems, because I'm not problem-free myself either. But at the same time, we should all step back from time to time and just, relish in the fact that we are alive on this wonderful, magnificent planet. And so we should do something in order to save Mother Earth, in order to help her and not rape her as we are currently doing. So I think that this is a time of awakening, and especially the younger generation sees that with all these advancements that we've made in technology, we should use this stuff more towards a planet that has sustainable energy instead of using them for destruction. And I think that the current or the younger generations see the potential of this technology that we've developed over the past 80 years with which we can achieve these goals, because I don't understand the people who say that we should go back to the Stone Age. No way. We should remain within our technological capabilities, even advance ourselves even more technologically speaking, and use that to save the planet. And what if that is one of our purposes to be here on planet Earth?
Absolutely. I could not agree more. The Jane Roberts material, the Sept material, spoke about Earth being, and the Metatronic readings of Earth being the university of duality, and that we are here, and Seth was the first to quote this, to learn responsible creation, and that he spoke about polarity dimensions versus non-polarity dimensions, but Earth being a place where we learn responsibility. And Cayce, and I'm really happy to hear you speak that you are a believer in reincarnation. I think that is such an important concept to make life make more sense here. I mean, if we only came here once and then there was nothing left, then so much of the difficulties that we go through would seem so pointless. But in fact, if we are here to learn how to co-create positive energy in a difficult environment, then you can apply some reasoning to the purpose of life in general. And all of us.
And here's the thing, an atheist at this point would say, well, what's the point anyway? So who cares? And this is what I mean, that, I don't understand why, because this whole idea of reincarnation, in my opinion, does not even necessitate a belief in God. It just explains that the energy of the soul, or energy period, always lives on in one shape or another. It does not disappear. And so, to me, these ideas are perfectly valuable, and especially if you explore them from different perspectives. For example, you said about that, this planet Earth is this university of duality. Well, what about if all the other Earth-like planets that we've discovered, or the ones that yet are to be discovered, are or have similar types of intelligences on them, and all of those planets are these universities. And then when we die, in those moments between being reinserted as a soul into another physical being, This is the higher level. That is, the fabric of the universe that we all belong to if we're dead or if we're alive. So, I think it's just, I don't want to say that I'm a mystic, but to suggest that everything is over when you die, as some atheists have suggested, that it's basically like pulling the plug on a computer, doesn't make any sense to me, because even if and when you when you pull the plug on a computer, if you store that computer for 1,000,000 years in a safe place, and then in 1,000,000 years there just happens to be an electric socket again that you find, and you plug that computer back in, well, guess what? That computer will work again with all its files. And so even a computer, when you pull the plug on the computer is not dead. It's only resting for a moment. And, I think we can apply these thoughts to a whole bunch of different things as far as reincarnation is concerned as well.
Absolutely, and that's an excellent analogy. And, you were talking about life on other planets, and Edgar Cayce, just to refer to Cayce one more time, spoke about Arcturus being one of the highest evolved civilizations in our cosmos, and he stated in his readings, in several readings in fact, that all human souls pass through Arcturus before incarnating into the Earth, indicating that Arcturus is a stargate that we pass through. And he also stated, and this is another area that not a lot of people are necessarily aware of, he stated that humans in their sleep state and in between lifetimes have sojourns on other planets. And so that's quite fascinating.
Absolutely. No, I completely agree. It's highly fascinating.
He speaks about us going to different planets in a light body or in an etheric body. Now, I want to reference at this point Dr. J. Alfred, and he is an Australian PhD who wrote some fascinating papers that you're probably familiar with on what he referred to as plasma metaphysics. Mm-hmm. And he stated, again, which academia accepts, is that between 80 and 93% of the universe is either dark matter or antimatter. And
correct.
So he suggested the idea, which is fascinating, that the human chakra systems may be similar to particle accelerators like the one in CERN, Switzerland, in which energy is inversed, and that when people activate their chakric systems and go into deep meditation or altered states, or even in sleep, as Cayce suggested, to other planets, they are exiting the realm of matter into the realm of antimatter. And that throws a really fascinating consideration into the idea of the angelic realm actually being the realm of antimatter.
That's very interesting, and I really think it's fascinating that, if you look at the concept of chakras and things like that, this is not something that is new. This has been around for thousands of years.
Yes. And
all of a sudden, here we are in the 21st century, or at the late 20th century, even in the 1920s with Vivekananda, there was a resurgence of this New Age type knowledge. And I really hate to use the word New Age, because it's not a New Age at all. It's been around forever. It's just that our society today, our civilizations around the planet, are rediscovering these ancient keys to wisdom. And, if our ancestors knew a long time ago that meditation or mindfulness works, then, it's interesting to know or to see that we are now embracing these things, because let's say 30 years ago, if anybody talked about meditation or mindfulness, then, you were told, or most people said, oh, now you belong to a cult, you're crazy. And today, yoga, all those different things are part of everyday society. In fact, more and more people join the yoga movement, but that's been around for thousands of years. And so I think it's fascinating how everything on our planet seems to be cyclical and not linear at all.
Well, that idea of chakras being particle accelerators that convert physical matter into antimatter as being the opposite side of the torus is something that Bruce Cathy spoke about, and Jay Alfred really has got some brilliant articles on a website called Plasma Metaphysics, and it is just fascinating. A few years ago, I decided that I wanted to do fasting in the way that the Native Americans did Vision Quest. And so I found a facilitator, and for 5 years in a row, I went without food for 5 days in different areas. I did it on a Native American reservation in Mexico with the Yaqui Indians, and the first 3 years not much happened, but the fourth and fifth years I had out-of-body experiences that were quite extraordinary. And looking back on that, I can see the correlation between chakras being similar to particle accelerators, converting energy from one state to another.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
And so one other question that I'd like to bring up, and I realize we only have a few minutes left, is that there's some fascinating information brought forward, and I think David Wilcox has spoken about it on his website, but there is a ex-Marine who spent 20 years in the service, and he went by the name originally as Captain Kane, I believe, and his name is Randy Kramer. And he claims that he was part of a project and worked on a space station on the planet Mars for 17 years. Do you have any information or anything to share about that? Any ideas?
I've heard these stories on so many different occasions, and, no, I don't have any information, and it would be truly sensational if that were to exist. But, with the current development in privatization of space flight, that would essentially mean that somehow whoever is building this stuff has access or has developed technology that is far and above beyond of current capabilities that even SpaceX and Elon Musk and all those guys and Virgin Galactic with Branson, what these guys are working on. And I'm on the fence with those stories because we have to remind ourselves that the people who embrace that story are the same people, not all of them, but some of them, that embrace stories that we have never been to the moon. So, they accept the fact that we've been to Mars. I mean, I'm sorry. Yeah, look, I can't even speak because...
Well, no, I understand completely. Some of these conspiracy theories are so far out there that it actually almost has a negative energy feel to it. And in a way, they're so far out there that it takes away from the credibility of the real aspects of the message that needs to be understood, that we are not alone in the universe, and that we were more than likely seeded by humanoids from a different planet. And
even if that didn't happen, let's say hypothetically, because that's what the ancient astronaut theory suggests, that the seeding happened through a deliberate visit by extraterrestrials. even if that didn't happen, that's a giant if, in my opinion. I mean, I'm convinced that that is how it was. However, even if there were no flesh and blood extraterrestrials who came in the past, then there are today some bioastronomers like Dr. Chandra Wickramasinghe who are openly suggesting and have mathematical proof behind their his suggestion that life could have not originated on planet Earth unless it had been seeded from another planet elsewhere with spores. Then it's called this Panspermia idea. Panspermia suggests that at some point spores traveled through space, and wherever these spores encountered a suitable home planet, this is where those spores of life unfolded to essentially make the planet livable to living organisms. Now, the second panspermia idea is called directed panspermia, where a group of extraterrestrials deliberately sent out these spores with little probes or little capsules, and they flew throughout the entire galaxy and landed perhaps on planets like the Earth, where this life was able to flourish. However, to suggest that everything originated out of this primordial soup and it all happened by coincidence, there is this famous quote that says that, you know, to suggest something like this is akin to saying that, you know, if you have a junkyard with a whole bunch of watches, or Graham Hancock sometimes says a 747, you have a disassembled 747, and then a hurricane blows through that junkyard, and then you have a finished 747, or you have all these watches together again as wristwatches, and they work. So that is the magnitude of quote-unquote coincidence that we are looking at with the origin of our humanoid and plant life all around the world, as far as genetics are concerned. And so, you know, I always found it very fascinating that suggesting that we may have had help from elsewhere, or that this planet has been seeded, that this somehow undermines our human origins, or that it undermines our human ingenuity. And that is absolutely incorrect, because if human ingenuity were such an amazing thing, then you could put a baby, a newly born baby, into a room and leave it there alone for 20 years, but you feed it, you keep it warm, but you don't have no interaction with that child. And then 20 years later, if human ingenuity were to work the way we are told it does, or some people suggest, you would open that door, and that child, now a grown person, would walk up to you, extend their hand, and say hello in the language that in the country that they grew up in. Now, we all know this is impossible, because each and every one of us, including you, me, all of our wonderful listeners right now, we are the product of one thing, and that is education. So who educated us? Well, at first, when we were born, it was our parents. They taught us how to speak. They taught us how to walk. And then we went to kindergarten, and then we went to elementary school. Some people went on to university, or they went to vocation school. But all of us are the product of, or are the product of teachers. We are being taught every step of the way. In fact, to this, I learned something earlier today. So we are being taught, or we are learning every day, and usually it's because somebody tells you something, a teacher. So for me, the whole idea that at some point we've had help from extraterrestrials who first showed us how to make fire more efficiently, or how to do agriculture in order to sustain our tribes, or to learn about mathematics or astronomy, engineering, all these different things. In my opinion, it's not just a possibility, it's necessary, because no idea is born out of a vacuum, and that is what we're being suggested, that everything started with nothing, and here we are. We are here the way we are as a magnificent society today because someone knew a long time ago that our species has potential to eventually, over tens of thousands of years, achieve the achievements that we are, massive achievements that we are familiar with today.
Absolutely. And I once heard a similar analogy, to the 747 in the junkyard. It said that the idea that human evolution is totally random is about as likely as a monkey with a typewriter writes all the great masters, mastery books. And so I agree totally. And,
the argument was if a monkey were to sit down and type randomly, how long would it take to write the works of Shakespeare?
Right.
And it's like 9 billion, or even worse, 9 trillion years. So yeah, it's possible, but it would take longer than the existence of the universe. So these are not figures that have been pulled out of thin air by someone off of the street, but someone that some are mathematicians and statisticians and things like that. So we should start looking at everything from a new perspective, and we should also draw the line with things that are plausible and things that are not, because as we say, or as the critics always say, extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. Well, clearly, they've never watched Ancient Aliens. They've never read any ancient astronaut books, because the evidence that we are presenting is extraordinary. Just because you don't get it or the other side doesn't get it, that's not our problem, because I'm sick and tired of hearing that, for example, at Puma Punku, there is no gray andesite, or that it's all only red sandstone. That is a complete lie. Of course there's gray andesite. I have been there with a geologist who has confirmed to me that it is gray andesite. So, the misinformation is huge on the other side.
Absolutely. And let me just shift gears slightly, and this will be the last topic. I realize you've got to move on. You are headed to Peru very soon. But recently, Hewlett-Packard came out with what they called super quartz. They have modified quartz in such a way that they say it can be used to create a memory chip that will outlast humanity. Now, Edgar Cayce spoke about there being 3 locations on the planet of world records. One beneath the paw of the Sphinx, one somewhere in the Yucatan area, and one beneath the area of Bimini in there. Now, one thing that I've often thought about is, if the Atlanteans were highly advanced, as I believe they were, as Cayce said they were, they would not necessarily have written these world records in stone carvings in hieroglyphics on walls. They may well have had chips. They may well have had crystal computers. Do you think it's possible that crystal skulls, particularly the ones that are ancient, could possibly be ancient recorders that have information that we have not yet learned how to open?
This is actually a suggestion by Chris Morton, who wrote the book, the Ancient Crystal Skulls. I may be giving you the wrong title right now, but anyway, in his book, Chris suggested that that is exactly the case, and that right now the reason why the 13 crystal skulls that allegedly exist have not yet been all found is because that if the 13 skulls at some point come together, they could unfold or initiate or launch this computer system. But here's the thing, and I said this in a documentary in 2008, just because we have the 13 skulls, let's look at it, we wouldn't even know where the on switch is. And so my argument too here is that, okay, the Atlanteans or ancient cultures may have used some crystals as storage data carriers or storage containers. So if we look at our society today, we are headed in a very dire direction right now as far as information storage is concerned with the cloud, because a cloud does not exist. Essentially a mirage of water vapor, and it can just disappear on a whim, especially when the sun comes out, as we all know. And so right now, if all of us continue to uploading everything onto the cloud, one single EMP strike from the sun, a solar flare, could wipe out all and any of that information, and we have absolutely nothing left. There is nothing. So all of us, and I do not include myself in this group, I have nothing on the cloud. All of your photos, all of your notes, all of your music, everything will be gone. It'll be gone, and it'll take probably a long time, if that happens, for us to recover this technology, because it's very fragile, and who knows what may happen. And I'm not, I'm not projecting doom and gloom. Quite on the contrary, I'm just calling for caution, because I always thought that progress was not either or, but it was an option of, oh, you want to buy this music on your cloud and upload to your cloud? Great. But you know what? Here you can also buy a CD, because a CD, it'll never break. Well, after many years, of course. But, you know, you have an option. And now, like Apple just went with with those wireless headsets, you know, oh, we're just eliminating the wire. I mean, what a dumb move, really, because I choose to have headphones that are attached to my phone simply because of the fact of the whole radiation question. And now to have wireless headsets in your brain at all times of the day, I mean, how ridiculous are we as a society to accept this just with, oh yeah, okay, new technology, I'm going to embrace it. Let's we all need to step back and question ourselves. You know, yeah, progress with technology is great, but what effect does it have on us as humans? Because some people do suffer from radiation or what do you call it, communication radiation sickness, where, you know, from TV and radio signals, there are some people who get affected by that, and so they move to areas of the world that are unaffected by, or where these different waves do not reach those areas, and they're cured. They no longer have these symptoms. You know, so I could go on and on about this. But does the audience want to ask some questions? I'll give you 15 more minutes. I'll give you an hour.
Okay. Well, thank you so very much. So if anyone, let me check on the chat line. We don't have the telephone, and if anyone would like to post a question on there, then we'll take that question. And Giorgio has been gracious and kind in giving us an additional 15 minutes.
And I'm really looking forward to attending your conference. This will be the first time that I'll attend this one, and so I'm really looking forward to it.
Well, thank you so much, and it will be a wonderful event, and we are really looking forward to meeting you. So here's the first question, and it's a good one. And this is from John in Idaho, and he is asking, do you feel the solar radiation that has been occurring over the last 2 and 3 decades is playing a role in human biological change?
I don't know. That is too deep of a question for me, and it would involve a biologist that's open-minded, you know. But who knows? I mean, I know that there's some people have suggested that we're all being affected by emissions from other, not even just from our sun, but from stars from other solar systems. And you know, whether that is happening or not, it's really not in my wheelhouse to be able to form an educated opinion on that.
Well, you know, you were talking earlier about the non-random event of human evolution, of human biology. Mm-hmm. Now, here's another Edgar Cayce reading that I didn't know about. And
right.
I'm mentioning this to John in Idaho as well. And John Van Auken will be with us in Denver. And John speaks about Edgar Cayce predicting that there had been 4 previous forms of human biology, and that a 5th form, a new biology, would emerge in the 21st century after 1998. And Robert Schoch speaks about the Cambrian explosion, which was 550 million years ago, in which all mammalian biology emerged. There were no physical biologies on the Earth that can be found in fossil evidence before the Cambrian radiation, and he thinks that it was caused by solar radiation. And so it's interesting, you know.
I would venture to look at it from another perspective by suggesting that what if these whole stories of all these UFO abductions in which sperm is taken and things like that are in fact true, and that may be the next follow-up to a new type of human being, because you know, if they changed our genetic material right now, if such a person at a young age then grows up and then procreates, that new extraterrestrial DNA is passed on to the future generation of humans. So like I said earlier, this stuff takes place over tens of thousands, if not tens of thousands of years. So I personally would venture to say that a change of genetic makeup is more likely to happen in a lab as opposed to radiation or sun flares. And that's just my personal opinion. I just always ask, what is more likely? And, you know, I love the sun. Come on. Why should we fear it?
Well, and it's interesting, the idea you bring forward, because, you know, with this, recently on television, they were talking about this Zika virus coming into Florida, and that they had, in a laboratory setting, developed another mosquito, genetically altered, that could kill the ones carrying the virus, and that they had a dominant gene. And so as they reproduced, the ones carrying the virus would be removed. And I think there are other examples of genetically altering insects as with a dominant gene. And so the idea, and I had not considered that, of an alien intervention with these, you know, these people that talk about sperm and eggs being taken and hybrids being formed, that they would create a dominant gene with a new DNA pattern that would eventually change the nature of humanity. That's a good idea.
In fact, this is exactly what Eric Flanagan proposed in Chariots of the Gods. So, you know, the whole idea of Adam and Eve and things like that basically was that at some point the extraterrestrials saw that our species potentially has a great future ahead of them, technologically speaking, but at the time we were technologically speaking still primitive. So they basically just took one of our ancestors and they made a genetic mutation in his genes, and clearly knowing that they wouldn't change him per se, but once he would procreate or give off his sperm to another woman, that child born afterwards would carry those genes. And so, you know, just because we are only now discovering these genetic things that we can create in a lab, I always look at it that why should we be the first? That is the only thing. And of course, a lot of the skeptics, they always snicker and laugh when they ask me, well, okay, so we've had help from aliens. So what? Did the aliens also have help from aliens? Ha, ha, ha. And yeah, the answer is that is a resounding yes. Of course they had help from aliens too. But you play a game backwards, to the very beginning, if there ever was a beginning, and that, with all respect, can be considered creation. That is God, i.e. the universe. So, of course we're not the only ones. See, there were, technologically primitive societies throughout the entire galaxy, and at some point they all received help. And then this is what we will do as a society in 500 years in the future when we gain capabilities interstellarly, that we will go to other planets, discover other quote-unquote intelligent life. But if that life happens to be logically primitive, what will we do? Will we just watch, or will we actually guide them and teach them a few things in agriculture, astronomy, engineering, like I said earlier, mathematics? And I think the answer to that is yes, and the prime directive only comes into place after that society recognizes that whoever descends from the stars are extraterrestrials and not gods. The prime directive does not exist when a society is primitive, because they will immediately turn us, or have turned them, into gods, into deities. And both you and I know that bona fide deities do not exist in that sense as we think of them today. So I think the skeptics have it all backwards when they look at the ancient astronaut theory, because they simply either they are ignorant or they play ignorant.
Giorgio, you are a man with a cause and with passion, and leading an extremely important movement toward expanding our knowledge, and I thank you for that. We look forward to having you in Denver, and I would like to mention again that our event is November 18th through 21st in Denver, Colorado, and our featured speaker is Giorgio Tsoukalos with Graham Hancock, William Henry, John Van Auken, Scott Walter, Dr. Robert Schock, and James Van Auken, the son of John Van Auken. And we will have two of the skulls that were vetted by the British Museum as being ancient, and that is Max and Shauna Ra.
No kidding. That's going to be awesome. Great.
Oh, yeah. We have Max and Shauna Ra there available for personal sessions, and they're remarkable skulls. I've worked with both of them. And so please take an opportunity to have a personal session with these skulls, and they're quite remarkable. And Michelle Nocerino is the daughter of Nick Nocerino. And it was Nick Nocerino that verified to Joanne Parks, who lives only about 20 miles from me. I'm in Texas, that Max was the skull with the white cap. The story behind Max is quite fascinating, that Nick had been told, Nick found Shauna Ra through psychic guidance, and he had a dream about it and went directly to a place with some explorers and found him. But he was told by the native indigenous of that area that there was a legend of a skull with a white cap, and that's Max. Max has that section that looks like he's wearing a white cap. And so please, while you're there, take an opportunity to have a session with these two skulls. They're quite interesting. There's a very tangible sense of electricity that these skulls emit. Giorgio, what's next for you? You're heading for Peru next week?
Yes, actually, we're leaving on Friday, and I'm taking a group of about 30 people through Peru and Bolivia, and we'll be visiting Lima, Nazca, Cusco, Machu Picchu, Silustani, Tiwanaku, and Pumapunku, and I'm very much looking forward to showing some of my readers of Legendary Times magazine these places, and this time, it'll be live on site. So, wow. Very excited to be able to do that with them.
That is wonderful, and we certainly hope you organize more of these tours, and you would absolutely be a great host for any of these amazing places that appear on your program. Giorgio, I thank you sincerely for giving us your time, your passion, your knowledge, and we really look forward to seeing you in Denver. It's going to be a spectacular event, and I've got one small question, and then we'll end the session. There's one lady here from California. It's Sylvia, and she's saying, Giorgio, are you married?
Yes, I am. Proudly so, yes.
Well, we actually met your beautiful wife in Virginia Beach, but thank you so much for your time today, and all of you that are listening today, please visit Giorgio's website. It is www.legendarytimes.com. Is that correct, sir?
Yes, and legendarytimesbooks.com as well.
And Giorgio will be speaking in Denver. He will be signing books, autographs, photographs. He will have T-shirts available, and we just have a wonderful event, lots of fun, lots of expert speakers, and we combine that all with a spiritual tone as well to combine the sacred with the scientific. Thank you all for listening. Giorgio, thank you so very much.
My pleasure. Until next time, all my love.
Thank you. And so we will close this session now, and if anyone would like to join us in Colorado, we do have tickets available. Our hotel is a beautiful all-suite hotel. There are only a few rooms on site left, and believe me, you want to be on site because we have such a brilliant array of speakers that our event will run from 10 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night, with an hour and a half for lunch, an hour and a half for dinner, and breaks in between. But it is a beautiful hotel with a big lobby and lots of space to mingle. Our speakers will be accessible to you all. They won't be on the stage and then leave, so there's a lot of interaction. Please join us in Colorado and act soon. My name is James Tyberonn. I thank you all for tuning in. God bless.
Summertime, and the living is easy. Fish are jumping, and the cotton is high. Your dad is rich, your mama's good looking. So hush, little baby, and don't spread your